The new update has landed, bringing with it skill lock, the ability to see the chances for special talent equipment, and more. Stick around in this video for everything you need to know about the update that just landed. Hello my friends and welcome back. I'm Chisgule Gaming and this video has been sponsored by the makers of Rise of Kingdoms. We're going to talk about everything that landed in this latest update, and there's some things I love and some things that I wish gave me just a little bit more. Let's start with skill lock. This has to be one of the most anticipated updates in Rise of Kingdoms, and you see it on your screen here. How does it work? When you've unlocked some number of star levels on a commander, all the way up to 4 stars, you unlock new skills as well. You can see that my commander here, Charlemagne, one of the most premier commanders in the game, is a 5-2-1-1 commander. When I tap the button right over here, I can have the option to lock skills. You can lock the skills that you have unlocked, but you can only lock them in order. In other words, I can use this slider to lock the later skills so that all my points would go to the earlier skills. So for example, if I lock this on 2, that means that all of my skill ups would go into the first or second skill. The thing that I love about this is that for commanders like Saladin, you can now level them up and start using them as a primary commander much sooner than you could have before. However, for commanders that are extremely premier and have a skill in the middle that you wanted to skip, and this is very important, commanders like, say, Guan Yu, whose second skill is related to hitting a garrison, or Herald, whose second skill is related to hitting a garrison, you really would have liked to have been able to skip that second skill, and you can't. So skill lock is still good. It gets us part of the way to what I think would be a perfect world in which you could really control where the skills go. But I think the big advantage is going to be on the following commanders. If you are working on a commander like Richard I, you could start leveling them up and using them as a primary and lock on these first 3 skills, which are the most important skills on Richard I, and they're very premier. For a commander like Saladin, this is very, very exceptional. Cruising down the list to see if there are some other commanders where we feel like the 4th skill just really is not quite as good as the others. I suppose we would say William is that way, although I wouldn't really recommend a William primary. I have personally ran this experiment, took him up to 6 stars. He's really not my favorite as a primary commander. There may be some weird rally-related situation, but, you know, his 4th skill, it's very, very good. It's buffing everybody. But the difference between level 1 and level 5 of this skill is relatively small compared to all the other skills, which give you a lot of value here. So William is an example of a commander that benefits, but it's not a commander you probably particularly need to 6-star anyways. Other commanders, by the way, that benefit, just not as much, will be commanders where you care about the 1st skill and the 2nd skill, but not so much the 3rd and 4th skill. So for instance, YSG, you care about the first 2 skills so much more than the 3rd and 4th, although the 4th is really good. Another example of a commander where you use skill lock to the 2nd skill will be Charles Martel. First 2 skills, really important to max. You're going to want to focus there. So boom, you could skill lock right over here on these 2 and then keep leveling him up, and you could use him as a primary. I think that makes a ton of sense. So commanders where you care about the first 2 skills, heck, Constantine, if you want to use him as a primary and you want to start leveling him up before you've maxed the first 2 skills, now skill lock will let you do that. So it's commanders where you care about the first grouping of skills, the first 2 or the first 3, where this is going to be really, really advantageous. And I don't think I even need to say this now, but please make sure you max the first skill on commanders before you progress with them. Now, one thing you can do, which is really nice with skill lock, that actually is a saving grace for players that end up with like a 2-3-4-1 Charles Martel, which, what a disaster, right? What I think you could go in and do now is you go to skills, you go to lock, you drop it back down, right? You hit save, okay? And I hit confirm. And now you could go in and every skill up is going to go fix the first skill. So what this also does is it helps people who have really, really broken commanders go and fix them to go max their first skill a good bit sooner than having to try for the expertise. And in that regard, skill lock is protecting a lot of noobs. And by noobs, I mean new players to the game who should totally subscribe to the channel and check out my videos that will teach you how to optimize in Rise of Kingdoms. P.S. Throw a like on here and subscribe already, all right? The next thing we've got to talk about, by the way, is the reset button in the upper right. Hello there. If I tap the reset button, it requires a special scroll to reset my skill points. Now, the update note said that they're going to give us more information later, as well as some of these skill resets about how this is going to work. So they've added this to the game. They've said they're going to explain it in a subsequent mail. So hopefully sometime soon we'll see exactly how this works. I have a few theories here. My theory is one of two things. One would be if you use a skill reset, it sets the commander to 1000, and you would get back, hopefully, all of the sculptures in the form that they originally were in. In other words, if you had Charlemagne sculptures in this case that you were using, because you got those as a KVK warlord, those would be returned to you as Charlemagne sculptures, but your universal sculptures would be returned to you as universals. That would be my perfect world. The other world in which this might work is that they're all returned to you as sculptures of Charlemagne, and you can just reallocate them using the new skill lock function. We'll see how that goes. Wow, wouldn't you know that as I'm filming this video, the mail actually arrived for skill resets. Okay, let's read it. As more and more governors put their focus into developing their commanders, it's become common to wait on upgrading a commander's star level until their primary skills reach its max level. Governors who did not become aware of this strategy until later have missed out on what many consider to be the most effective development path, and that is true. With this in mind, we'll be optimizing the commander's skill upgrade system with this next update. After the update, you'll be able to choose which skills your commanders have upgraded each time they level up, but you cannot skip or omit earlier skills. See, that's the thing we were looking at earlier that makes it so like, you can't really use this on Guan or Leonidas in a really effective way. For example, you can choose to have your first skill be upgraded and have your skill upgrade chosen at random from skills 1 and 2, or even skills 1, 2, and 3. You cannot choose to upgrade skills 2 and 3 if skill 1 has not reached its maximum level. Right, we talked about that. This way, governors will not feel like it's a mistake to upgrade a commander's star level too early. At this time, we're giving 3 skill reset items, which will allow you to maintain a commander's current star level, but will reset all of their skills to 1. So you can choose which of their available skills to upgrade. Have fun. So one of my alliance members, by the way, is telling me that those new skill resets don't give you any sculptures at all. When you use a skill reset, it just gives you points. So you're not going to get back any of your sculptures. Unfortunately, you're not going to get back any universals if you had used universals on the commander. You just get back some number of points, which you can reapply, which is an interesting idea. I'm going to save my resets. I don't know when I would need it, but I'm just going to hang on to those because those are probably one of the more rare premium things that I don't know that you're going to have a way to buy those in game. I guess we'll see. But there you have it, the full loop on how skill lock and skill resets now work. What this would mean is that if you went and you had totally messed up that Charles Martel I was talking about earlier, where it's like 1, 3, 4, 2, or whatever, you could use a reset, get your points back, apply lock, and then have all of the points go to the first couple skills. Beautiful. That is actually a really nice service for players that have messed up commanders, and it still, by the way, is not a service that lets you optimize like crazy for, commanders that you'd want to use where you want to skip a few skills. Something that everybody probably noticed, who at least has an older account in the game, is that there's a new bundle that showed up in the top portion of the screen, and these are the lost bundles. For players that have been in the game for a really long time, there are some new bundles that were at some point added that we never had a chance to get, even though we met the unlock conditions a long time ago. So for me, there's the Hero of the Age bundle, which for $10 I get 15 sculptures. Yeah, I'm in on that. I don't really need the stars or the experience at this point. It's all about the sculptures for me, and then, $10 seems fine. Same here, $20 for 20 sculptures. I'm going to take this deal and run with it. That doesn't mean everybody should go and buy these deals. I'm just saying, for me, these seem pretty exceptional. And the Lost Bundles event lasts for a limited time. This is not something that's going to be available for a long time or come back regularly. According to the information, at the end of the event, that's it. Buy these while you can, and then they're gone. And honestly, this style of update, This had to have paid for itself, right? With the bundles that people are probably going to buy to give people the option to buy it. And I bet you the support team was getting a not small number of complaints from people who were like, hey, I'd like to get this thing. Why didn't I have the opportunity? So here it is. The next thing we've got to talk about, baby, is special talent equipment. Because for those of you who read the small text, if you scroll all the way down, in the description of equipment, it now tells you the chances of getting a special talent. There is an 11% chance on your first forge for getting a special talent, 22% on your second forge, 33% on your third, 44% on your fourth, and 100% on your fifth forge. However, it only ups the chance if you're crafting the same item. Now, that doesn't mean you have to do it back to back. And they haven't actually changed the way that this works. They're just showing us the chances now, which I appreciate because I have said no less than 5 times that, like, I've never spent so much money on something where I have no clue how it works. There are some really big implications for how this does work, though, because your chance goes up every time you craft the same thing. So if I were to craft Shio's Return 5 times, if I don't get Shio's Return on the first, second, third, or fourth time as a special talent, I'm guaranteed to get it the 5th time around. Now, we'll get into the probability of special talents in just a second, because this is a little more complicated than just what you see here and adding the chances together to say, like, oh, well, if I craft twice, it's like a 33% chance to get a special talent. That's actually not quite true. However, the big implication, before I get into the math, the big implication of this is that in a perfect world, you want to craft the same thing several times before you go and try and craft something similar but different. So, for example, if you're in the market for legendary equipment, and most people probably shouldn't be, they just focus on their epics, right? I could make Shio's Return over and over and over and work toward getting a special talent, or I might decide, oh, you know what I want to make is these sturdy boots of the Eternal Empire instead, which is, yes, a set boot, and yes, set bonuses are nice. However, my special talent chance on these boots is, well, going to be 11% because I've never made them before. Whereas if I went and made a second Shio's Return, my special talent chance, you can see I've made one, it's equipped to Richard I, will be 22%. So I've got double the chance to get a special talent if I make a Shio's Return instead of the thing I really do want to go make, the Boots of the Sturdy Empire, because I have already made Shio's Return once. I'm mentioning this because there's a huge advantage for players that specialize in one type of troop or one, commander type, so infantry or archers or cavalry. Because what you would do is you would go in and you'd make the same patterns over and over. And I get that you'd be missing out on some diversity, but if you make Shio's Return, which is very available in Lost Canyon, everybody can get a lot of these patterns. You make Shio's Return over and over, you're going to get the special talent at some point. If you've got 3 infantry marches you're using, you probably would want 3 anyways at some point. It's kind of an interesting idea that instead of making different things, you make the same thing to try to increase your chances. And then you end up with at least one set where, like, everything is special talented. And that's a pretty compelling strategy for equipment, I'll be honest. Rather than running around and making lots of different things, which has been my strategy, I got to have a cav set, and I got to have an archer set, and I got to have an infantry set. Making all infantry stuff and making the same stuff over and over is a compelling idea. This is most true, by the way, for the patterns that you can get over and over. Things like Shio's Return, Eternal Night, things like the accessories from Heroic Anthem. If you're spending, for sure that's true, but also if you're going and you're doing things like the Egg Event, and you're going and doing things like the Hunt for History, even the sets, like if you just make the same set over and over, you could get a full set special talented, and that's going to come to you a lot faster than if you make lots of different sets. Now, there is one really important thing I'd like to cover, and this information is courtesy of BYG Pi, who posted this in my Discord server at least a week before this update actually landed. So if you're in my Discord server, you already knew this information, and it's really good information. If you're not yet in my Discord, the link is in the description of every video, and the link is just discord.gg/Chisgule. You should go and check it out. We've got a ton of great information in there, but let's talk about this piece of information they shared about the chance of getting a special talent, because I actually think this is really important to understand, and the math is not as simple as you would think. So this player was going off of rumors, and there were rumors about how this special talent system was going to work weeks before this update actually landed. And they point out that the chance of getting a special talent on the second or third or fourth, or in this case, fifth attempt would be 11%, 30.5%, 43.5%, 74%, and then 100%. At the time, I guess, that they had this information, there was a rumor of a fifth craft, 55%. So if we just go and we mark that off real quick, the reason I'm showing this to you is that if you're going to follow the strategy I was just advocating, you're still not even going to be all that likely to get a special talent on the piece that you're hunting for, even if you were to craft it 3 times in a row. Now, when I say in a row, I just want to be clear. You can craft different things. Over time, your chance goes up every time you craft an item. So all that superstition, by the way, about like, oh, craft some gray stuff and then switch to something else, you know, that doesn't work, okay? If it did at any point work, it was a bug, and it's certainly not how it works now. So the chances of getting a special talent, if you wanted to make like one really amazing set, on any one piece, it's still only 43.5% if you craft that same thing 3 times in a row. I mean, I guess I'm making an argument against what I was just suggesting, crafting the same thing over and over, because the odds are still really low. And you may be going, Chisgule, how is that possible? You're saying if I make the same thing 3 times, the chances are only 43.5%. How can that be? Because on the third craft, it's a 33% chance, and then a 22 and an 11% chance. Isn't the probability higher? And it is not. And this math is correct. This gets into some college level statistics and probability, and I'll show how this works very, very briefly, but I'll have timestamps. If you want to skip this, you can skip this. But the reason that it's less than the sum of all those chances, in other words, the reason it's 43.5% and not like 66%, the reason that it's 30.5% for 2 crafts, that's your chances of getting a special talent at some point when you craft twice, either on the first time or the second time, and it's 30.5, not 33, is as follows. The way this math works is that you're looking for the probability that you get either a special talent on the first attempt or a special talent on the second attempt. So in, I guess, probability and statistics notation, that U means or. So the probability you get a special talent on turn 1 or on turn 2 is the chance that you're going to get a special talent within 2 attempts of crafting something. With me so far? So we have to break that number down, and the chance that you get a special talent on either the first craft or the second craft would be as follows. It's the probability of getting a special talent on the first attempt plus the probability that you do not get a special talent on the first attempt. That little apostrophe over here, that means not, okay? You do not get a special talent on the first attempt, and you do get a special talent on the second attempt, okay? You can see why this is not necessarily intuitive. So the probability that you miss on the first attempt and get on the second attempt can actually be broken down as follows. That's the probability that you do not get a special talent on the first attempt multiplied by the probability that you do get a special talent on the second attempt, given that you did not get a special talent on the first attempt. So the full equation would look like this. I know my handwriting here is, wow, really less than perfect as I reflect on this. But if we just throw the actual numbers in here to go full circle with this, that's a 0.11%, or, 11 out of 100, plus 0.89. So if it's an 11% chance you get the special talent on the first attempt, there's an 89% chance you don't. So 89% chance that you don't times the 22% that you do. And that number we know. That's what this number up top was that was given to us. If you miss on the first, you're guaranteed a 22% chance to get it on the second. That's what that number tells us. That's what they give you in game. And that's why you do all that. You add this up. It is 30.5% rather than the 33% that you would have expected. Or more significantly, when you get to the third craft, it's still only 43.5% chance. So less than half of the gear that you make where you craft 3 times is going to be special talented. In other words, if you followed my advice and said, I'm going to make the cavalry set 3 times, still only 3 of the 6 pieces would be special talented if you were lucky. Because really, it's the chances are less than 50-50 even that would happen. So special talents are really rare, and hopefully all this math shows you it's a little bit complicated, but the only number you need to know is if you're crafting repeatedly, here are the probabilities that when you go and do that, you're going to get the special talent. For those of you that play many characters, you actually now can star them, and that way they show up in the top section of the screen as you see here. When you go and you star these, make sure you star the one you want to show up in the very top upper left last, and update the ones or star the ones you want to show up in the bottom first. That way they'll end up in this nice order, which, I mean, yes, I want Chisgule in the upper left, gosh darn it. While we're here, let's make our way over to my restart project. My restart project is about to enter KVK. We are in the eve of the crusade, and there's a new feature here. There is a new feature for the Season of Conquest where, if you look at the rankings, it now shows you what camp you're in. This is pretty exciting. Previously, when you looked at the kingdoms, you had no clue which kingdoms were actually going to be in your camp, unless you went and you did a little hacky maneuver where you looked at the color of the cloaks of the soldiers on the battlefield in somebody else's KVK to try to find the cloaks that were orange, and you deduce where you were positioned based on which ones looked like allies in the other KVK. It was a weird process, but now they just tell you, here are the kingdoms that are in the various war camps. We're doing, by the way, Heroic Anthem, and you can see it. We're actually in a KVK with 636. This is going to be interesting. Something you may not have noticed is that Deceptive Troops has now changed. Previously, it would just always double the amount of troops you had, which people were able to just look at your power and figure out exactly how many troops you had. So Deceptive Troops was not so deceptive, and now it multiplies your troop count by 1.5 to 2.5% if somebody goes and scouts you. It still feels like an item that I don't particularly need to use, so I guess in the early game for players that don't know what's going on, maybe this will matter. Now, one thing that a lot of players are going to care about is your kill count, and this has changed dramatically. Now it gives you a score. You have kill points, and by the way, every kill you did before they started tracking your T4, T5, the breakdown of what those kills were, now have vanished. Goodbye. Nice knowing you. Unfortunately, your credit for all kills before, 10/23/2019 are gone. And I'm telling you right now that there are some folks in my alliance like Negan and Abe that had among the highest kill count in our kingdom are going to feel probably a little bummed that those no longer count for anything. They're just gone. That said, I think the point system makes a ton of sense because there were players that did a lot of T1 feeding, inflating their kill counts. And when people have not logged into the game yet after this update, their kill count is actually going to be 0. Their point count is going to be 0. Once you log in, you get all your points. So if I were to go now and look at the rankings for alliances, I'll tell you right now, it's meaningless because people still haven't logged in, and as they log in, these numbers change dramatically. Just an hour ago, our score was literally half what it is now. So this board doesn't yet mean anything in KVK or in your kingdom until folks have fully logged in, and once everybody is logged in, then you'll have a sense of what these actual kill counts are and which alliances really are doing all of the slaying. And again, if you had looked at this a couple hours ago, the Beagles up top here had about the same amount that they have now, except we and a bunch of other alliances had half. I mean, let this settle a little bit, and then we'll look and see where some of these other folks actually sit. This is going to be really interesting to see recent kill counts. And man, for those folks that had worked so hard to get over 1 billion kills, oh, geez. I wonder what their kill scores look like. They're probably pretty insane. And there were previously some achievements. I wonder if they're still in here for getting tons of kills. Am I misremembering? Oh yeah, no, there's still an achievement. So I wonder, I guess your kill counts aren't totally lost. You can see my kill count is right over here. It's 276 million. That number is remembered. So, okay, it's not a totally lost number, what your kill count was previously. All your previous kills still do count towards Scorched Earth for those of you who are working toward that. And you could just flash that achievement in your character profile to show, hey, I had this many, even if it happened before they added up all those points. There is one thing I found. There was no equipment. I didn't find any city skins. There is an avatar frame here, Shining City in the Sands. Am I crazy or is this new? I feel like this is new. If it is, it looks like it comes from a bundle. I don't know what bundle that is. Is it? Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Okay, it's not the Ramadan Gifts bundle. For a second, I was like, where is it? It's not here. I don't know where you get that from. Maybe I missed it. Let me know down below in the comments. There's a few other smaller things in this update. You can go into your settings and turn on a simplified graphics option. They've changed the way that Imperium calculations work so that, gosh, what a whole bunch of kingdoms did to kind of work the Imperium system was not log in at the end of the Season of Conquest so they wouldn't get their troops back from the Hall of Heroes and they would stay out of Imperium. You see what I mean? All the other kingdoms got their power back because, you know, their players logged in, but if you told your players not to log in, you wouldn't get these troops back from the Hall of Heroes, and then you wouldn't be as high in Imperium, and you could bring a bunch of people into the kingdom. Blah, blah, blah. All that to say you can't do that anymore. Also, the hospital now has a special place for siege units. I mean, this is all upside for cities that are getting rallied and zeroed because you're going to need those siege units to go and gather. That amount of siege units, by the way, is not doubled in KVK. It's 50,000 siege units only. So there is a siege unit zone in your hospital so that you can go and still gather to recover later, which I think is generally a good thing. If you enjoyed this video, do me a huge favor, throw a like on here, and subscribe to the channel for daily Rise of Kingdoms videos designed to help you get value and smash your enemies. And until next time, you have fun smashing the kingdom.